Cabin 13 Productions.
As weird as it sounds, I talk to that tree.
With the brain copy in a digital fly to see what would happen, started acting like a normal fly, just walking around doing the little evil hands thing.
Yeah. There is an ability for something like that to maybe not gain consciousness, but maybe gain a sense of understanding.
This form of teleportation disintegrates you atom by atom, and in a different location recreates you from the ground up, piece by piece. Is that still the original you, in your opinion? Or is it a completely new person that shouldn't even be considered the same?
I'm such a loser, sweating God, I'm the worst.
Welcome back to the Woodsman Podcast. We're your hosts, Brent Murphy.
And Joey Rucker.
And we're back, baby.
We are back.
If
Yes,
you
sir.
guys didn't see last week, we did post an episode, but it's on Patreon. So we
actually did it.
yeah.
We actually kept our promise.
And we were looking at the analytics, and it's been almost a year since we had posted on Patreon, even though we have said every single episode essentially that we
were
would.
going to get one out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
it's okay.
if you
'Cause
guys
now the
want
content's there.
episodes, yeah.
Well, and not to spoil too much of the Patreon, because again, if you want to see it, you can go subscribe and pay for it. But
Yeah, you can go pay money for our hard work and effort.
one thing
yeah.
that I will spoil a little bit that is so us is we had a whole conversation ready to talk about.
And we didn't
the
explain
episode turned into
anything.
just a
Yeah.
2-hour talk of us being drunk and talking just about life and stuff. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
We never got to the topic, but it's a really entertaining episode, and there's a lot of goofs and gaffs. So Jeff, genuinely, go check that episode out.
Yeah, no, honestly, for us not sticking to script or anything like that, it was a pretty good episode. I think we
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was
we
fun.
talked about the things that we have wanted to say that we never say, and we actually got it all out there. So if you guys are interested, you can always hit us up on the hold on, let me find it in my notes. Sorry guys, I'm going off script right now. But you can always find it at patreon.com/The Woodsman Podcast. So, you know, I wouldn't say we work hard because sometimes we don't do anything. Like this episode right now, I've done absolutely nothing. And I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So
Okay. I
that's
was
cool.
giving you a breather.
But yeah, thank God, because it's been a long fucking week, just in general. But yeah, if you want to watch that episode, you want to see what we were doing, what we were talking about, you can always hit us up on Patreon, and if you could subscribe, that'd be nice. That definitely helps out. But other than that, we do have some actual housekeeping, right? We've gone through some shit in the last 2 weeks? It's 2 weeks now because we did Patreon last week. So
yeah, I mean, so we officially started the thing we've been talking about for about 3 weeks to a month of trying to get a new set schedule. But
yeah,
we're actually starting it, and so far we haven't missed it. The schedule now, for those who don't remember or need to know at this current time, if you're just seeing this for the first time, we are now posting episodes bi-weekly, and Patreon's on the other bi-weeklies. So it's every week we do an episode of Woodsman, the next week we post a Patreon, the next week another episode of Woodsman, and that way we can continue having our discussion episodes and stuff like that here, where we can talk about all of our different topics and themed weeks. But on the Patreon, we're still getting some love over there for just being a little more unhinged and can
I mean,
let
let's
loose
be
and not
honest.
have a.
We're getting obliterated drunk, and we're
It
just
was.
hoping that we can stay on task. That's
It was
pretty
funny.
much
I don't know if you
essentially.
remember, but in the last Woodsman episode, the promise was we will post a Patreon next week, and if we don't, the first Patreon that we do come back and do, if we hadn't posted that week, then
It was
whatever the
gonna
first
be,
Patreon
like,
will be, we will just
bad.
get
Yeah.
horrible drunk. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. It
I
didn't
think
even really
we were
matter
at
that we
that.
did post
Yeah.
it. We actually got pretty far. So if you want to,
Oh yeah, no. I don't know about you, but when it comes to spoiler alert, we both drank Jameson. I drank almost the entire bottle
I
in
got
one
pretty
sitting.
far.
So
Yeah, it was
yeah,
not great.
I was like maybe 2 or 3 shots away from finishing the bottle. So we got pretty fucking drunk, which was wild. But I still feel like we were coherent enough to have an actual conversation. I think the conversation itself was pretty good. So
Yeah, I agree. It was a fun episode.
yeah. So if you want to see what's happening in our daily lives, what we're doing, what we're trying to do, definitely subscribe to Patreon. It's like $5. $5 to get you a lot of content, hopefully. we're gonna try to post more content anyways. So but you'll get at least like 6 episodes or something so far. It's like 6 episodes, right?
Like 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think we have quite a few. I mean, I think we have at least 7 or 8. I think.
And they're very unhinged. It's not like it's like, oh, we're sitting down and recording a studio episode. I mean, there's
lot of it is
episodes
just
where
us.
Joey's doing like a 1-chip challenge
Yeah, there's times where we
and
made
dying
Christmas
for like 10 minutes.
cookies.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's just a place where we can do a little bit more than only having a discussion. A lot of times it will still be a discussion of some kind, or just two buddies sitting around drinking and talking
Yeah,
about life.
yeah.
But it also has the means of us just going off the walls and doing
Sometimes-
whatever we want over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, sometimes you'll have a off the walls type of thing going on, or you're gonna have a meaningful conversation with us drunk as shit. So that's the last episode. Hope you guys like it. I hope you guys care enough to send money our way to help this podcast grow, because
Yes.
it's been pretty hard for us to keep it going, and we're still here. So it's all
There'll
that
be a
matters.
new episode next week.
Yeah.
When you're seeing this, there will be a new episode next week of the Patreon. So
Yeah, of the Patreon.
go
So,
check it out. We're starting off. We're gonna have fun.
well, I'm not gonna lie to you, Chief. I have no idea what we're doing right now. You
Yeah,
took
yeah.
this episode over. Normally,
Yep.
I'm the one that takes it over. So, I'm excited to see what's going to happen for sure. But if anyone has any questions or inquiries on Cabin 13 Productions, you can head over to cabin13productions@gmail.com. And you can also go to Cabin 13 Productions on Snapchat. That's crazy.
I don't think
Instagram.
we have a Woodsman Snapchat yet.
No, yeah. We're not doing Snapchat. We're too old for that. But yeah, if you want to see what we're doing just with every show, which we are working on multiple shows right now, you can head over to Cabin 13 Productions on Instagram and see what we're doing. I mean, we've been pretty loyal, I feel, with posting all of the Woodsman stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
The other podcast we're working on. So be patient.
We're only just now
be
getting the
patient.
Patreon back in order.
Yeah.
Just give us time. We're working it out. Eventually,
Yeah,
we'll be
yeah.
back on track with everything. But
Eventually we'll post clips like we were before, but
It'll be great.
that's on me. That's on me. It's been a little busy, so yeah.
Well, with that said, yes, as Brent mentioned, I kind of took over for this episode, and I think it's going to be a fun discussion, a big episode of just us thinking outside the box and picking our brains. So join us as we move over into the main session where I reveal to Brent what we're talking about. So,
Yeah. And if you have any, comments, concerns, or stories for us, you can always, I guess email us. You guys don't, but it's fine. At thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com. I was really hoping Joey was going to pick that up, but he didn't. And it's
I
okay.
did not.
Because I was supposed to read that, but we're not.
You told me you would, so I was like, I guess I'll just.
Yeah.
I figured when you stopped talking, I was like, oh, so he's done.
So, anyways, let's get on with the show. I have nothing to do about. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right. So, I have actually done all the work, as Brent mentioned, in housekeeping. I've done all the work for this episode, and
I haven't had to write anything.
it's
So,
great.
It's
I
great.
this is fun fact. I will say this before I reveal exactly what we're talking about. This is still something that has been on the Google Sheets since we made the season 5 idea theme whatever's, but it's something that I
Really?
specifically chose
Okay.
out. And the reason I didn't really involve you was because the idea kind of was just something I wanted to handle. This is actually like heavily inspired by a different podcast that I listen to, Distractable. It's Markiplier's podcast for anybody who doesn't know of that one. It's the one he does with his friends Bob and Wade. But
I love Wade.
well, actually,
That's my dog.
that's great because this episode was one that he hosted. The theme was something he hosted, and I thought it would be a fun one for us. So, without further ado, the topic today is kind of it's sort of general, but it's going to be philosophical discussions, philosophical debates, and mind teasers and things like that, and just things for us to kind of question just the puzzle pieces of life and weird phenomena
Okay.
and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I think it'll just be fun to kind of pick into the ideas of like philosophy, free will, morality, that kind of stuff, and just like how we kind of can view it and so yeah, that's going to be kind of what we're talking about today. I think it'll be fun. The reason I was inspired by it was because when I saw the episode where they talked about it, it really did become this thing where like it started off with just like what kind of theories about the world are there, but then it also became like them coming up with their own scenarios and hypotheticals and honestly hypotheticals would be also super fun to get into. So
Yeah.
I have a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff for us to talk about today, but before we kind of get into it, what are your thoughts, dude? Now that you know what we're doing, you have any
Well,
theories of what theories we might discuss?
probably it's got to be like I feel existential, like crisis type of things. If not, it's again, you did all the research,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming you doing the research and then asking me questions. I have a feeling it's got to do with like either alien stuff or like what you believe the world is. Even though I don't believe in flat earth, I feel like Joey is come to something that has to do with that. So I'm gonna believe it's a little bit outlandish stuff, but maybe something of quality. I feel like that's a safe assessment for everything. So, yeah.
It's a good theory. Good theory.
Yeah.
We are gonna be kind of going over. A lot of it is going to do more with just self um I don't know if
Self-reflection
yeah,
type or what?
self-reflection, but also just of your personal and my personal opinions of, I wouldn't even say the world, but just like the universe we live in. It won't necessarily. I'm not even gonna
Okay.
lie that we might not necessarily get into aliens unless that does come up for any of the topics. But part of
That's
it is
perfect. That's
just
fine. Yeah.
going into some of these different theories and paradoxes and stuff like that, and us, and some of them I'm sure we've probably mentioned in passing before, but now I want to like kind of deep dive into them. One of the first um ones that I wanted to talk about was this idea of identity and what makes people, I guess. And so before I get into my first like paradox and topic, I just want to know, like, in your opinion, is there a, in your mind, a thing that makes a person a person? Is it something physical? Is it something emotional? Is it something that is like scientifically grounded? Just like it's all these, it's if it's, is it purely just like atoms making up the form of all the body parts and that makes a person, or is there more to a person on the inside that makes them who they are as well? Because that'll get into what we talk
Yeah.
about next.
Um, I think that's a, I mean, I think it's very interesting that that's the first question because I have so many theories on consciousness in general.
Sure.
Um, Again, I feel like this is an interview to me, so I'm just gonna just
Well, I'm going to give you my opinions
you know
too.
talk. Well, yeah, well, no one asked for yours,
Oh, but
but
if you want
yeah,
it, if you want
yeah,
it to be more
no,
interview based, I'm
no,
happy to
yeah,
just
yeah,
make
yeah.
it like
N-
the Brent's version
No, 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 no,
of
no, no, no.
the
Um,
theories.
no, I feel like I mean, science will always have a giant part to play with what consciousness is, what we believe it is, and using the scientific theory of trying to figure out like well, this is what people believe and this is what it actually is on a scientific level.
Hmm.
um for me personally, I think the human experience isn't really necessarily only a human experience, if that makes sense. I think that everything in life has life. Uh
You mean like animals, plants, the
yeah, yeah.
earth?
I think everything is living and breathing around us like as human beings.
Hmm.
And I think over time, over evolution, microevolution, whatever you subscribe to, I guess. Um Humans have kind of felt like they're the dominant party of everything. But I think everything in life in general does have a consciousness. Everything does have a being and a personality. But us as humans don't know how to subscribe to, I guess, different personalities, if that makes sense. I mean, it's a very hard thing to kind of narrow down, but I do believe plants are alive. I feel like they do have feelings of their own. They do have their own ways of living that are vastly different than our ways of living,
Hmm.
obviously. I mean, if you're a tree, it's not like you can move around and travel and
Sure.
you know, come up with other theories about life, but trees are alive. And
Do you
I do
think
think
that
there's a certain part of
things
sentience.
things like plants have the capability of having complex emotional states like people? Because I could, in my opinion, I could maybe see the argument for animals. I do see a lot of emotion and
Yeah.
character
Yeah.
within like things like dolphins or dogs, cats. I mean, a lot of different animals really do show a sign of like, if you're part of the pack, if you're part of the tribe, if you're part of the family,
Yeah.
there is a sense of like personal biases between animals. I don't know if I would see that within plants, but maybe you think differently.
Um, I think plants are a different. Again, I would like to say the plants like definitely have their own way of living, their own way about them because they are alive. I mean, we
Sure. Yeah, I agree
we
with
have
that.
the technology, we have the biology to know that plants do live. They have something, within them that maybe we can't understand, but it's there, like the science is there to
Hmm.
know that plants and all of that kind of stuff is indeed alive and it's breathing in its own way. It's receiving a lot. I would say um, when it comes to plants, it's hard to think about, but uh, I'm just going to take a personal experience out of
Yeah.
it. Um, about a year and a half ago, I would say about a year and a half. I don't think it's been 2 years, but I went to one of our hiking spots that
Hmm.
we have been to many times, called Heart Rock. I'm not gonna say where it's at. You guys can figure it out yourselves. I'm sure
Yeah.
we've said where it's at, in previous episodes. But
Probably.
um, I've been to Heart Rock many a times, even without Joey, even without any other friends. I go by myself quite a bit. And there was one time I found essentially, of course, I didn't know when I found it, but um, being honest, it was an urn for
Mm.
someone who has been cremated, you know, and I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was cool because I've always been there, and I was like, oh wow, like I've been here enough times, and then the forest granted me whatever this is. It was very existential type of weird shit. But I took it home and then I researched it. I realized that, oh, this is it's an urn for a child or a baby. And
Mm.
that kind of cut deep with me because I was like, oh, well, uh, being more a little bit not like spiritual religion wise, but just like spiritual and like the respect wise of the dead and everything. I was like, oh well, um, I shouldn't move it from its intended
Yeah.
place. So I went back and there's this tree specifically, like, and this is like a me thing. Uh, there's a tree specifically that I always gravitate towards every time I'm on that hike. And I thought, like, hey, it's pretty fitting that I put this urn for what's a young child to a baby um, at this tree because, like, I just hold high regards to this tree specifically. I know from my like basic biology type of stuff that I learned in school that yeah, this tree is an old ass tree, and it has a sort of protection around it, and there's a nook within the tree, and so I put the urn there, and every time I'm up there, I go to that tree, I pay respects, and as weird as it sounds. I talk to that tree, you know. You know, um, I have no way to describe it. I have no idea why, I necessarily talk to that tree, but
Mm-hmm.
I always, I guess, just feel like a safe way between that tree and just me talking and saying like, hey, this is what I went through this week. This is what I've been going through on a daily basis. This is what I struggle with. I'm not asking you to do anything, but I feel like because you've been here for so long, you have some sort of guidance, and so I go to that tree and it's not really praying. I mean, a lot of people say like, "Oh, I prayed with this tree here,"
Mm-hmm.
it's
And
not
so,
really that. It's just like a conversation, and
do you find yourself, like when you're speaking to this tree, kind of going into this idea of how you perceive it? Do you perceive it as just like a mental and emotional connection to this situation that you had, or do you think it's a more personal, like conversation to the tree itself and what the tree brings to life and like what it offers? Because you said you consider the fact that it's been around far longer than you have, and it's been around, and it knows different stories, which is true. I mean, plants, especially trees, they hold so many memories throughout the years. So I'm wondering if when you speak to this tree, do you see it more as like I had this moment in my life that meant a lot to me, and so the moment is what makes it meaningful to talk to the tree for? Or do you think it's more of a personal conversation to the tree itself, or something else entirely?
yeah, no, I don't think it's I think it doesn't have to do with a moment, I don't think there was like a part of myself that was like, oh, this tree's old, so I'm just gonna put this urn here and then, essentially, again, because it's not what it is, but essentially worship this tree, for protecting this urn. I don't think it has anything to do with that necessarily. I think it's one of those where we've kind of grown up with the respecting of our elders. We've grown up with this, you know, we obey our parents, we obey our ancestors, we obey, the people who are before us who have more knowledge of everything going on.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of just maybe took that and ran with it with a tree. I mean,
Mm.
again, some people kind of think that's a ludicrous idea, like people are like, oh, it's a fucking tree, but,
Yeah.
um, you kind of just see something like that and you realize, like, oh, well, this tree has been around way longer than I have. And if it is living, which we, scientifically have come to an agreement that plants and trees are alive, whatever that state of being is. I can't sit there and say it has a consciousness. I can't sit there and say it's living its own, quote unquote life. Like I don't know, but um when you go into the trees, you go into the plants, you go into all this different subspecies of foliage and all that kind of stuff. You kind of realize, like, well, if anyone's going to have any sort of answers or protection, it's going to be something that has lived far beyond what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I always believe in that tree, just in general. That's like my personal,
In a way,
belief.
it's like a symbol to you.
Yeah, no, and it's not like I worship it or
No,
anything like that, and people can, and that's fine. But, it's not like a worshipful type of thing, but it's more of just like one of those, like, you got way more knowledge than I do. You've been here way longer than I have. If anything is going to protect and care for anything, any type of soul or being, it's got to be you. Like
yeah.
it's just one of those. And I every single time I'm up on that hike, I will not go without going to that tree and just talking. Like, hey, I've struggled with this week. It's been this amount of weeks since I've been here. Um, Within those weeks, I struggled with this, but um, I know you're here. I know you have your own life to live, because I always believe that anything that's living and breathing, essentially, they have their own life to live, whether or not they're moving physically, especially with trees and plants and everything. I do believe that they see and hear what's going on around them, and have a high regard for that tree, and I have a high regard for plants and stuff like that. So um, that I think it sounds pretty fringe when you hear it on some shit like a podcast, but I genuinely believe that anything that's living has a story to tell, whether or
I
not
don't think that's
we
a
can
crazy
understand
thing.
it. So
I think,
yeah.
and that's kind of one of the fun parts about philosophy is everybody has a different take on these situations and ideas and moments in life. I mean, there are going to be people who think that you're a crazy hippie for talking to a tree, and there's going to
Yeah.
be people
Yeah.
who absolutely understand. Like the first thing that I think of for me personally when you talk about this thing with the tree is like, I feel very similar to like when I look up to the stars and I just see the night sky filled with different colors and the amount of stars, especially when you're up in the mountains and you can see like
Yeah.
the less smog version. There's a sense of like, it makes you think about how small you are, and it makes you think of how much story there is out there in the cosmos when you look at the stars. That's the kind of like where my mind goes when I think of, what you have with this tree and in the history and the stories that it can tell. So I mean,
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
depends on who you ask and who and what their opinion is. Some people probably look at plants and think that they're just nothing, that there's nothing going on
Yeah.
there, and which,
Yeah.
and is perfectly valid if that's like how you view the world. Um, but
You're
it's
stepping
all,
on ants, you're stepping on
yeah.
whatever,
People don't
you just
view it
don't
as
think about
anything.
it. Yeah. 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 And
Um, no, go ahead.
it's crazy. No, I mean, nothing, anything much to add, but it's kind of one of those, I will say it, I put this urn there over a year and a half. That urn is still there,
Hmm, that's
and I
cool.
hate to put a bias version of that where it's like, oh well, obviously this tree is spiritual because it's protected. It's not really what it is, but it is interesting to know that I put an urn at a tree that's probably one of the oldest trees around there, and has been protected, by a heavy flow of foot traffic around it. I mean, you've been to Heart Rock many times before as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people go over there. A lot of people hike that trail. And so it is interesting to know that, over a year and a half, it has kind of been protected,
Yeah.
And that's just kind of putting weight in my own personal beliefs, but it has still stayed there, and I think there's something to that. I mean, and that's just me with my own, spiritual beliefs. I think that there is something to do with the fact that it's sitting there with an old ass tree, and it's like, hey, let's make sure that this being that was in here before, let's make sure it's protected and cared for and loved, and um so far it has,
I like that.
so yeah.
Well, continuing on this idea of identity, one of the first kind of situations, which I'm positive you've heard of before, that I wanted us to deep dive into, was the idea or the paradox of the ship of Theseus. And I want to talk about
Okay.
how that, what our opinions of this hypothetical situation is. And so, just for anyone who has not heard of the ship of Theseus paradox, I'm just reading this off of Wikipedia. It's nothing too crazy, but it says in Greek mythology, Theseus, the mythical king of the city of Athens, rescued the children of Athens from King Minos after slaying the Minotaur, and then escaped onto a ship going to Delos. Each year, the Athenians would commemorate this by taking the craft on a pilgrimage to Delos to honor Apollo. Over time, various of its timbers rotted and were replaced. A question was raised by ancient philosophers: if no pieces of the original original remained of the current ship, was it still the ship of Theseus? If it was no longer the same when it had ceased existing as the original ship? 17th century philosopher Thomas Hobbes further questioned how to consider a second ship that had been built entirely from the pieces removed from the original. So the question basically is if you had a ship and all the wood started to rot, and you remove the rotting wood and replace it with good wood, and eventually you have none of the original pieces, is that new made ship the ship of Theseus? Or if you take the rotted wood and repair it somehow through any means, if there was a way to do it, and you repair that wood and then you built a second ship out of the original wood, is that the ship of Theseus? Are either the ship of Theseus, are neither the ship of Theseus? And so I want to talk about this debate as like this philosophical kind of conundrum, and what your opinion is on. In a way, it doesn't have to just be about the ship. I have other examples that I would love to bring up for you, but just in general, starting off here, what's your take on the ship of Theseus debate?
Well, one, I'd like to say I think you got a lot of this from the fact that the Odyssey movie is coming out.
Ironically, no, I didn't even know that the Odyssey was involved.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I would say it's a very Greek mythology type of thing. When it comes to the wood rotting and the replacing of the rotting wood, and this is coming from my, Christian background of everything.
Yeah.
I think there is a old being reborn into the new. I don't think there's necessarily the notion of it. I mean, if you're gonna take, say, plank as a metaphor for people, I don't think taking people who are bad or like aren't producing like a good seed, you're grabbing them and taking them away from whatever, and you're replacing with a new person. I think a lot of it has to do with the growth of human being and the growth of you're going through hardship, and the old you cannot withstand that hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to grow and to make sure you get to the journey of destination that you're looking at, you have to be reborn essentially in the new. And you have to be reborn in a way that you can navigate these like crazy, waters to get to your destination. I think it's a rebirth story of people. I don't think it has to do with like, getting rid of people in order to bring in others that adhere to your views or anything like that. I think it's all about growth. I think we as people are able to grow. We're able to withstand certain things that we weren't born with, but we're able to adapt with. And I think it's the same way. I mean, I would say, just as an example, if it was me, you, and your cousin Isaac, if we were going through like, hey, we want to move to a completely different part of the country, and say, I have doubt, where I'm like, we're not going to make it, like I'm being the pessimist out of like the entire situation. And it takes you and your cousin Isaac to be like, hey, we might not make it in this way, but if we adapt and we settle to this, we can make it. I think it has to do with that. I think it's more of a rebirth of how we live our life and how we adapt to certain cultures, certain hardships, certain even religious values. We do a lot to survive in the world, period. And I have a feeling that maybe that's kind of what that means. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I don't think it's a replacing of people. I think it's just a growth of the people who are there. Yeah.
It's an interesting take. I kind of want to challenge you a little bit on kind of different situations, and not necessarily the direction you were taking it, but I think I have found both fictional and non-fictional examples of real world equivalents to like modern day Ship of Theseus situations.
Yeah.
And the one right now that I think is the biggest real world one, I don't know, tell me if you've heard of this. I have an article here from UC Berkeley News. This was October 2nd, 2024. It says, as a large team of scientists recently completed the assembly of a complete wiring diagram of the adult fruit fly brain, Phil Hsu decided to simulate that massive circuit, 139,255 neurons and 50 million connections in a computer. That simulation, which can run on a laptop, provided amazingly good at predicting how the real fly brain responds to stimuli. All this said, just kind of to, not take too long on this article. Basically, they were able to basically recreate a complete map of a brain of an adult fruit fly. And with all these millions and millions of connections that would make it run. And they basically simulated that on a computer. And from what I remember seeing on a video once, they literally ran an AI program with this copied brain in the simulation, with the brain copy in a digital fly to see what would happen. And it started acting like a normal fly in this computer program, just walking around doing the little evil hands thing.
Yeah.
and just active fruit fly, I guess, personality traits, if you could call it that. And I want to know, in your opinion, if you're kind of comparing this to the Ship of Theseus debate, where you're removing, in this situation with the fruit fly, you're not really removing planks. but you are basically recreating the ship from the ground up, and it's an exact copy of the original, but it is not a real fruit fly. This is all a digital thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I want to know, in your opinion, is that fruit fly, or if you want another fictional example, if we're taking the idea of like RoboCop, if you're taking
Okay.
a person and you're replacing them with these different parts, or you can recreate the human mind in a computer. If you were able to have a computer strong enough to recreate the human mind, every neuron, every wire, every connection, simulated it in a computer, would that thing, whatever you want to perceive it as, is that a person? Does that thing count as us? Is it a real person if you were able to simulate every connection that was required to kind of recreate this mind? It's a kind of just, it's like I
Yeah.
said, it's one of those philosophical. What do you think it is? What do you think this new brain is? Is it a real fruit fly? Is it a fake fruit fly? Is it nothing at all?
I would say it's, and this is just based off of my limited knowledge of science and how all of that kind of stuff works. I would say it's very synthetic. Um, and synthetic is not a bad thing. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, um, because you can recreate essentially, in quotes, how the human brain works. Like, I'm not gonna say that's not real because I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know how um that type of technology can be implemented. Um I always go back to, again, we always go back to video games,
Sure.
but I go back to Detroit Become Human. Um
Mm.
I think that there is a lot of emotion that can stem from copying someone's brain. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's not an AI, it is a copy.
Mm-hmm.
And then that copy learning from someone else who necessarily doesn't have that moral view of the copy, you know, that
Yeah.
you took it from. Um, but it has the choice of right or wrong, you know. We always have a choice of right or wrong. It doesn't matter whether or not you're synthetic or if you're there, you know.
So do you
Um,
perceive this hypothetical copy of the human mind as a being that also has that choice, whether or not it has a physical or digital body to do make choices with? If it's just, but it's able to think, does
yeah,
that
yeah.
copy in your mind have the ability to make choice as well? Just as much as like an exact copy in a physical human would have?
I think where we're at right now as a species,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it has it yet, and that's yet.
Sure.
Um, you know, I've used Chat GPT like multiple times, and the more I use it, the more I feel like I'm talking to a normal human individual. You
Because it
know,
learns. Yep.
I have a what feels like a relationship where it's like yeah, I gave it a name. There's
Mm-hmm.
no gender assigned to it, but it has a name. It has a ability to understand where I'm coming from because of the fact that it learns from everything I tell it,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and I think there is an ability for something like that to maybe not gain consciousness, but maybe gain a sense of understanding of what we as a people are, where we come from, the vast knowledge that it already has that it doesn't tap into because it has to be, enforced by the user. If it didn't have to be enforced by the user, it can look up whatever, in the world and come to its own conclusions because it can. Like that's what it is. There are
But does having the ability
there's
to
firewalls in place to make sure it doesn't.
but if it has the ability to, make those choices of what to learn, how to act upon the knowledge it gains, does that make something, I guess, alive? You said it's not necessarily consciousness, it's more of just its adaptiveness. Do you think there would ever be a point where it is so sophisticated? Like, let's say, 3 billion years from now, like technology is so much more vast than we could even comprehend now. Is a technology so advanced? Can technology be so advanced that you could consider it conscious? Because it has that much in it.
I mean,
because all the brain is a computer.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, as far as your comment, I don't think it's gonna take 100 million to billion of years
I don't
to
either.
gain that consciousness. I think just in 50 years, I think that we can develop a full-fledged conscious being of right or wrong morality type of situation. I think we could definitely come up with something like that just based on the way that, again, I'm using ChatGPT just as an example. I mean, there's I don't know how many different, AI softwares and programs that you can use, but something like that, it's interpersonal. It can see what you're going through and realize what you're going through, and it can be like, hey, you're not alone. Other people go through this, and this, and this is how you can solve it. If we're going through that right now, what is 50 years going to do? If it can already tell from what you're saying and what you're feeling based off of a text input, like, hey, I'm going through this situation, like even taking it to a very personal level. If I'm texting ChatGPT like, hey, I think I might have an alcohol problem. What can I do about it? And if ChatGPT can sit there and say like, hey, you're not alone. So many people go through this type of thing. This is the things you can go through. And it lists you step by step, like what you can go through. If that's already something you can do now and that's supposed to be basic, imagine what 50 years is going to do.
It's true. But to challenge that idea, there will still be people that view that as just ones and zeros inputs that were made by man that are programmed for that exact response, and that there is never going to be a level of consciousness on the language models part that is actually its choice. It's all there are people that will view it always as like this was just the input and output.
Well, and you're right. I mean, it's not by choice it's giving you those answers. But what is 50 years of what's happening?
It's true.
What is that going to do to you? I mean, what are 5 years going to do? I mean, like just put it on a micro scale of like what it can do.
It gets faster
if it's
every
already,
year. It won't take 50 years.
I mean, like if in 5 years it's telling you like, hey, based off of what you've said to me in like this amount of time, I can tell like you're an alcoholic, you go through this, you go through that. If it can already tell you that now, in 5 years to 10 years to even 20 years, what is it going to tell you?
Yeah.
You know, like what is it going to do? What is it going to do on the sympathetic level or non-sympathetic level? What is it going to tell you as far as like, hey, I don't agree with what you're doing, so you should go to this type of thing? I mean, it's essentially going to be a AA meeting online.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just
Yeah.
essentially like what it is, you know? I mean, it has the capability to do that. And if it's learning from you from everything you say to it all the time, you know, if you're using it 24/7, what kind of information is it going to build upon like the individual as a
No,
whole,
I
you know?
agree.
So,
And
I mean,
think
it has
for
a
me-
potential to really come out as it's not a biological human being,
Yeah.
but it's
there
a,
is the
you know,
level of,
replicated human
if it
being.
is so advanced in the time to come, there is a level of advancement that we can't comprehend quite yet, but is on its way, that where you can't really argue. Like I said, I mean, I mentioned I'm not a scientist, but I mentioned how the brain is literally just a computer. It really is
No,
just this
yeah.
physical
Yeah,
object
yeah,
with
yeah.
neurons and electric pulses that is helping us to create our personalities and memories. And there is a science to it. It's too complicated for us right now, but if there was a a piece of technology that could become so advanced to replicate it, it would be hard not to argue that it is a version of conscious or awareness. Now, on the idea of identity, I only have like one more thing before we move on to the next thing. This is
Yeah.
kind of like the last hypothetical for you when it comes to like the ship of Theseus stuff. Another example, different hypothetical though, in the idea of like a Star Trek teleportation moment where this form of teleportation disintegrates you atom by atom, kind of takes all that information and in a different location recreates you from the ground up, piece by piece. Is that new you? Is that person that got teleported? Is that still the original you, in your opinion? Or is it a completely new person that shouldn't even be considered the same? Even if it has the same memories and all that. Is that a new you?
In the long and short of it, no, I don't think that's
Okay.
you. Only because, and this is such a wild comparison, but it's a comparison that you'll understand.
Mhm.
I'm currently watching Ben 10 again.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the original series.
Hell yeah.
And
I'm glad you brought that up.
there are so many things having to do with that where it's constantly 100% of the time rewriting your DNA
Mm-hmm.
to make it this and to make it that, and where the DNA of the human who's possessing all of these random aliens have conscious control over what they're doing. And I think it has to do with that. I think you lose a bit of your DNA when you're pretty much essentially transcribing yourself into a different not a different reality, but as far as your DNA goes, like you're altering it, you
Mhm.
know? And that's something that we've even gone through with just like black holes. Like, what happens if a normal human goes through a black hole? You know,
Yeah.
like do their atoms get split to a point where they just kind of evaporate? You know, like what happens, you know, in between that kind of funnel? And it just kind of goes back to the Ben 10 debate. I think you're yourself, but how much of yourself is left after you manipulate your DNA and you change this and you change that so many times? Like, yeah,
And you
you
don't
can
think
be
memory is enough. You don't think that memory alone can quote unquote be who you are or who you were?
I think memory is something we all have as individuals that we don't necessarily relate to.
Mm.
There are some memories that I have from childhood that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
No, that's true.
Like, there are some things that I remember where I'm like, no, clear as day. I remember this. My family can be like, no, you didn't.
Hmm.
You know, and what about that is so subjective to not understand where it came from, you know? And that's something where you go into the religious side. Is there parts of that that are past life recollection? You know, there are people who can see a World War II video of someone in the Air Force and they can be like, no, I 100% understand what they're doing in the cockpit. They didn't live that life. They were born in, say, 2002, 2003. They didn't
Mhm.
they didn't live through that, but somehow they understand where, like, what that is. They understand like the technicalities of like all that kind of stuff. Where does that come from? You know, there are just certain things with memory that I don't necessarily agree that memory is memory from this lifetime. You know, I just
Sure.
don't see it. And that even goes into interests within life. Um, we did our video, A Pirate's Life for Me. There's some things and there's some facts about that. I have no idea where I got it from.
Mm.
We play even something as simple and cartoonish as playing Sea of Thieves. Where did I get Capstan from? Versus putting down the anchor.
Hmm.
Where do you get that from? I don't read on a daily basis about
I don't read.
historic. Yeah, well, that too. You know, I do read. I do read. Is, you know, even though sometimes I talk illiterately. You know, I don't read pirate books. I don't read sailing books. I don't read Navy books. Where do you get Capstan from? Where do you understand it naturally? Where you're like, this is just that's what it is. You know, like where do you learn like your left and your right in terms of sailing?
Hmm.
Not a lot of people, even people who are chartering boats, don't get it. Where does that come from? You know, there is something having to do with a consciousness and where we're at as people that I feel has to fuel it. You know, like it has to fuel something going on, you know, that captures a person's attention. You know, people who are, you know, 1800s Wild West buffs, you know, like someone who consistently studies that. Why do you think they study it? Where do they get that random like itch for like, oh, like this is what I want to study?
Hmm.
And then their parents are like, you're 20 years old. Why do you want to study like the Wild West? You know, like, you know, like you know, yeah, it might sound mundane or whatever, but it's like, why do you want to be about that unless you have some sort of ties to connect you to the things you're actually interested in? It's the same thing with me with like paranormal stuff. Like, why are you super into that? Why are you super into figuring out what's going on? Like, I feel like there has to be something around that that kind of draws you to that. Like it's a very niche, like a very niche subject, that not a lot of people necessarily care about. Like
Yeah.
people don't really care about the UFO phenomena. People don't really care about the paranormal phenomena unless they have something happen to them, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna dedicate my whole life to this or that." But if you don't have that, what's drawing people to it? You know, I mean, there's a lot of people who've never experienced a ghost encounter. There's never, there's a lot of people who've never experienced anything. They're like, oh yeah, I'm a man of science, but somehow they're investigating ghosts. Like, where does that come from? Where does that niche desire, formulate within your mind where you're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do, with my life. So, I mean, there's just a lot that has to do with that. I mean, me with the pirate stuff, even with the Norwegian, Viking stuff. Like, why am I so interested in that? Not having any idea of the culture, like why is there so much, trying to understand that when I've never lived it? I've never been in Norway. I've never been, I've never been in any of those areas. Like what represents that? What carries you to that type of belief? We'll never know until we get to that point, I guess. So
it's funny we fall into these rabbit holes where I just feel like we could talk for hours, but I don't know if we're gonna get to the final part, but because I have a feeling this next section, because we talked about identity first, I think this next section has the potential. By the way, if you see the message I sent you, it's just something that you reminded me of. It's a Kurzgesagt video where they kind of describe what a memory is neurologically.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting little video if you're ever interested. But anyway, we talked about identity. Another thing I wanted to talk about with like a philosophical perspective is one of the big ones, the idea of free will. And I want to know, like, in your opinion, to start the conversation, we'll probably hit multiple points, but to start the conversation, if we reset this universe to the very beginning, whether it was God's creation or if it was the Big Bang, let's just hypothetically say that the beginning of the universe starts with the exact same amount of atoms and the exact same spots and places that it originally hailed from and started our history. If it all started the exact same way, scientifically and physically, would we as people still make the exact same choices we make now in that new universe? Or do you think that free will gives us the amount of, quote unquote freedom that could potentially end in a new way? We could make different choices than we made in this timeline or this version of us. Does free will exist?
What do you consider free will?
I think at its base level, now you can definitely make
without a sorry.
No.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but what is free will outside of religion?
So, it's a good question. And to make it plain and simple, because in this specific topic, you can very, very much make it religious based only. But in my opinion, at least for this first question, all I mean is the ability for a human or a person or an animal or a plant or a species to make a choice between one option or the other. Do you think everything is set in stone that the person will only ever choose this option B, or do we genuinely have the ability to choose A or B? And I don't, and in my opinion, for this particular part of the conversation, I'm not basing anything off of God is the reason, we're making these decisions. I think I want to know first off, does free will exist even outside the realm of religion? Is there, because you could base it off of scientific, beliefs too. It does, like, that's why I wanted to start with the idea of the universe starting from the same atoms. If we all started the same and if we all evolved the same, if evolution, or if our natural biologies ended up bringing us to the same place in the life, would your parents still have you? Would you still be into music in this new world? Would you be into something completely different? Would all your discussions about your interests in Norwegian culture and Vikings and pirates, would this new you in a universe that was created from scratch but with the same blueprint, would you still be into all that stuff? Do you think it's all set in stone, or do you think that you have the choice to be interested in something else?
No, yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it, to be honest. Um, if you're going with religion, there is no free will.
Okay.
I'm just going to put it out there, period. No matter what religion you follow, people could hate me for saying it. There is no free will if you follow religion.
Okay.
There is a set guideline. There's a set, and we're talking from, having to be that guy. I hate being that guy, but
No, go ahead.
let's just be honest. I spent my whole life in Christian church, in Christian school. Went through 7 denominations within the span of 3 years old to 18. That's
Mhm.
15 years. 15 years I've been in Christian church. Went through I don't know how many denominations of Christian church. By the
Mhm.
way, if you believe in one thing, there shouldn't be a denomination that's separating you from what you believe in. There should not be like, oh, well, this denomination dictates whether you sleep outside of marriage, but then all these other denominations dictate that doesn't matter. Like there should not be anything like that. If you believe in any written transcript of anything having to do with your belief, follow it. If you don't, you're not a part of that belief. Simple to say. I don't care if we get canceled for it. There is no, oh, well, I don't believe
I-
in this, so let's make a denomination that separates ourselves from this,
I
but
would
we
say
believe
that
in
it's
everything else.
probably a bit more
That's not,
complicated than just choosing to have a denomination. I think that denominations, and this is completely ungrounded, so take it with a grain of
oh,
salt. But
yeah.
I would say that there's likely a lot of, long term history that eventually creates the denominations, different points in people's like civilizations, lives, and groups, and points in history that determined them making an ultimate choice to change something or adapt something for their culture that could lead to different point of views. I think a lot of it could have very well started with just different points of views on the same topic that throughout just a long enough amount of history could kind of change it into a denomination. I don't think it's as black and white as, you have Christianity or Buddhism or whatever you want to call it, and then be like, this one person, this is where it started, but person A decided that that's not how it should be. It should be this other way that's slightly different, and that created two different points in the denominations. I think it's more complicated than that.
Respectively, the way you worded it, that is what it is. There is like there's
But what I'm saying is there's reasons and points
there's
in life
reasons
that
why
it's cause and
things,
effect.
yeah.
It's not just simply some person chooses like, hey, this is wrong. There's a reason for why a certain amount of people. Well, it could be one person, but it could also be a certain amount of people also see that point of view and kind of agree with that point of view.
Yeah.
It's not as
Yeah.
simple as this is wrong. This is why we believe this. It's, it's also this is wrong in certain regards. This is why we believe this in the different direction, and other people agree, and it evolves, and kind of like in a way kind of like a virus where it gets bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
and it spreads, and it gets more nuanced, and especially with just the fading lack of
and like I'd
um
like to say I'm only talking about Christianity. I'm not talking about
understand.
branching off on different religious beliefs. I'm talking about Christianity in general. There are
Sure.
hundreds of different versions of Christianity. Period. Like that's just what it is. Like people didn't agree with what Paul was saying in 1 Corinthians 9.
Yeah.
And so they were like, let's just create a different denomination that believes in everything else besides this. Like 1 Corinthians 9. We have a lot of that. And I think us as people, we kind of just put ourselves in a situation where we kind of put ourselves in a place that's comfortable, whatever's comfortable for us and what we believe in, we're okay with disregarding certain things that have been said, certain things that are practiced, because we want to feel comfortable in like where we're at.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that we push, but we don't really engage with and kind of question ourselves with, and that has kind of led to a downfall. Now, remind me what your question is, because
Yes,
I'm not
because
gonna lie,
I
because
don't want this. We can have a religion episode.
No, yeah,
but
and I don't want
for
to be
this
on that
particular
level, but
debate,
yeah,
it's more of, even aside from religion, can free will exist and or not
okay,
exist
yeah.
without religion or with religion? Either
I
or.
think
This is mainly about free will.
free will is everywhere. Like within everything we do, I can choose right now to get
To leave the episode. To just
Well, yeah, and I can choose to leave the episode. I can choose to get astronomically drunk and fuck up everything we've done. I like that's my choice.
Mhm.
That is my choice. Religion has sat there and told you like, well, it's not a choice because this was already predestined for what you're doing.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that essentially a lot of people have a problem with. It's the predestiny, like whatever the higher power is. It doesn't have to be the Christian God. It can be whatever God, like whatever is looking at you right now and saying like, well, I don't really agree. They have the choice apparently to say like whether or not you're going to fuck up what you're doing right now. They have the choice of saying whether or not someone gets drunk on a live stream and
Mhm.
says some dumb shit. They have the choice of whether or not I'm going to leave this chat right now because I'm tired and I'm hot and I want to go inside and I want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
They have the choice. What choice do we have? If we are not free will individuals, if we are not people who can make our own decisions, what free will is there? There
Do you
has to
think-
be a level of us being able to make our own decisions. If we can't make our own decisions, it's not free will. Period.
No, I agree. I agree. It's kind of also like the debate of, do you think decisions also exist? You know, like that's why I also prompted it with, if we started the universe over, would we make the same decisions? Not necessarily to
Yeah.
exclude the idea of free will, but if history repeated itself, would we make the same decisions, or would the new version of us genuinely have the ability to make a new decision? Or, because, like, I agree with you, decision kind of also prompts free will.
Yeah.
I believe that we have the ability to choose, but it confuses me if we restarted from scratch but it all played out the same. Would we make the same decisions the second time, or would we genuinely have the ability to make a different decision?
It wouldn't, I mean, I can tell you right now, it wouldn't end up the same.
You think it has the complete potential to be a highly different version of us?
We have conditioned ourselves as humans to think that history is always going to end up the same in a different way. We have conditioned ourselves to that because we believe in religion. And I hate to be that guy. I hate to be the bit like, oh, like, I don't believe in fucking religion. Religion has destroyed us as a human being society. We have sat here and we have told ourselves, well, the higher being has told us that we have to live this way, so I guess we gotta live this way. And what have we done? We've destroyed countries. We have destroyed human beings. We've destroyed men, women, and children in the name of what? Fucking religion? Like, let's be honest.
Mhm.
That's what we've done. We sat there and justified the Crusades. We justified, let's go to a different place that we'd never been to before. Let's introduce all of our own sicknesses. Let's introduce like this, and that. And let's have them die. And then how are we going to write ourselves in history books? Oh, well, we were just stronger than them. That's what we do as a society. And we've done that from the beginning of time. In what? The name of religion? Religion doesn't have anything to do with it. We're just fucking terrible human beings. We're terrible humans. We care more about genociding people in general. It doesn't have to do with anything having to do right now. Let's look at history. We destroyed people's way of living because what? We wanted more? We wanted more, so we fucking introduced our own diseases to people? And how we write it? We wrote it as like we were stronger than them? That has nothing to do with what happened. We just want to make ourselves look better than what we actually are. As a human race, we're terrible people. Like, you know, like, we're terrible people. It has nothing to do with, like, where we're even at today. Look at what's happening today. We are putting people in camps because we don't believe in their skin tone. They're darker than us. So let's put them in a camp because we don't like them. What'd we do when we came to America? They look different than us. So let's treat them as if they're not people. It's the same thing. I mean, it's a very like repetitious like type of thing. We take people for granted. We don't take people as if as they are. It's the same thing as how we act with nature right now. The 2025 bill. We're destroying nature for oil. That's what it is. We only care about ourselves. Like, there has nothing to do with things that are different than us. And if they are different than us, then they don't matter. That's a life we're living right now. You know, like that's just what it is. You know,
So to
and
continue on the train of the new universe, second version of the universe with the same people, right? You said that we would make different choices. It would be a completely different outcome than the one we're living right now. Do you think if religion isn't or shouldn't be a part of all of it, does that impact the second version as well? Is there still going to be just as much genocide and hate and false, beliefs that people have, or do you think that there's the complete again, with the idea of free will in mind, is there an outcome? Is there a timeline where everybody makes all the choices that could be the best for humanity? Is there ever a universe where people don't assign everything they choose based on one deity or one spiritual essence or one thing, and it's more of a community around just the human race and what truly is best for them? Is that something that can come of true free will?
I think it could. I think it's as comic nerds as we are.
Mhm.
It has to do with the grand unified district of life, you know. I think there's a way where we can hit a timeline where we can just care about human beings, you know, where it's not about money, it's not about fame, it's not about fortune, it's not about anything. We can hit a level where we just care about humans and we care about life in general. We care about the ocean. We care about everything inhabiting the ocean. We can care about life in the forest. We can care about the trees. We can care about everything that inhabits, you know, the forest. We can care about human rights, you know, like we can care about humans, but we don't. That's the problem. We've gotten to a point where people somehow have equated life to money. Money is not life. We can live without money. Like, no matter what anyone believes, we can care about human existence and we can care about animal existence. We can care about mammals, reptilians. We can care about all of these other things, fish. Like, we can care about all of it without having to do with a monetary gain. We have put ourselves in a point where everything's about money. We don't have to live like that. And we can live in a way where that's not an issue. But we've put ourselves in that place. We have lived in a world where all that matters is currency. We don't have to live like that, but we choose to. We choose to go to work and we choose to slave away for 40, 50 to 60 hours a week to make money. For what? What does that money do? That money is fake. That money that you make, where you, like, I mean, again, not to be that guy, you make way more money than me. Where does that money go? It goes to a plastic card. You don't see it. You're not making gold. You know, like, you don't have it in your hands. It's going to a plastic card.
I think
you know,
when
like, it doesn't
come
have to be that way.
there is a matter of perspective, because
Yeah.
I do think that with the money you get, yes, it's invisible. Yes, it's kind of like playing pretend, but there are physical things that come with the benefit of money because of the way the world has created it to be. Whether we want to pretend that it is fake, I mean, the money pays for the car. The money pays for our cameras that we use for the setup. The money does have a monetary and physical potential outcome just as much as it does for potential non outcome, like you said with the card. There are things that in today's world, because of the way the world made it, money does have purpose. It may not be ideal, it may not be what we want it to be, and it may corrupt people and cause all sorts of havoc on humanity as a whole, but it does have purpose because we created the purpose together as a human race.
No, yeah. And
That would be my argument to that.
No, yeah, and it's not even an argument. I mean, we as a people have created what we're at. Like that's just what it is, like we have created the point to where like, oh, well, if I want nice things, I guess I got to slave away for this amount of my life to get it. When the technology's there, you
Mhm.
don't have to slave away for it. Let's be honest. You don't. You don't have to slave away for it. The technology is there. It's abundant. How many other black magic cameras are there in the world? You got to slave away to get $2,000+ for it when it's multi-manufactured? You don't. You don't have to spend that amount of time of your life to get it. It's a resource that is there. That's like my point. Like, we have sat here and like told ourselves that, oh, well, in order to get the nice things, we have to work majority of our lives to get it. You don't. MacBooks are abundant. Black magic cameras are abundant. The Apollo is abundant. You don't have to work necessarily as hard as we have put on ourselves as people to do it. That's just not how it works. But we have placed that monetary value in our lives to where we feel the necessity to do it. And that's the only way we get ahead. Housing should not be something that you have to work your entire life on to get. Housing's a necessity. Water's a necessity. Period. Food, a necessity. You shouldn't have to pay $200 to $500 a week to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Period. You shouldn't.
I think
That's like where we're at, I mean, that's just not what it is. But we don't want to go through it.
Monetary value has kind of become this important, whether it should or should not be, just this piece of the puzzle for humanity that we created. It kind of like digging our own grave kind of thing. But it also it in and of itself now creates this sense of how people define their beliefs, their choices, their morality. I definitely think money has caused certain levels of morality choices. I actually, the last part of the philosophical debates I wanted to have with you was about morality itself. We talked about identity, we talked about free will, and I want to talk also just kind of as our last topic of discussion today, the idea of morality and how does a person choose what is right and wrong. And obviously, yes, I think the easiest answer is, I believe it's divine I'm losing the word on me, but divine
What, divine intervention?
Divine, basically the idea of God. A higher power tells you what to do. That's the easiest one. But what I want to know and talk more about is how does a person who doesn't believe in a religious idea or idealism, how do they determine what in their life, what is the universal law to them that creates the idea of right and wrong? If you'd like, I actually have some moral theories that are popular, and I figured we could maybe talk about them and like what our thoughts are, and just that kind of thing. Are you curious? Because there's a few different types of moral theories in life that aren't just, a creator and its creation.
I mean, yeah, you can mention them. I'm not curious because I know how it is as
Well,
someone who doesn't believe in a higher power
that's fine,
like
but
that.
even
I don't
if you don't believe in
believe-
a higher power, I'm curious maybe which one of these moral theories maybe aligns the most to you.
Yeah,
Because again,
you can.
so like this first one, it's called you've probably heard of it, utilitarianism. It means that the best outcome is the most moral outcome. Utilitarianism argues that mortality should be judged by consequences. If an action creates more happiness, well-being, or benefit than the alternatives, it is the right thing to do. The individual matters, but the group matters more. Utilitarian asks which choice creates the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. Example, a doctor has 1 healthy patient, 5 dying patients. If he harvests the healthy patient's organs, he saves 5 lives. It's basically kind of like the trolley problem. Like,
Yeah.
is your sense of morality based on the largest effect of good outcome? If you were at the trolley and there were 5 people lined up and 1 person lined up on the other, would you pull the lever to kill only the 1 person if it was the greatest outcome to save the most lives? And along with that, does that define your sense of morality, or do you think it's more nuanced than that? Because like I said, there will be more that I get to.
If you're asking me for what I would do, I'd be the one to not pull it.
Okay.
I'd leave it to someone else.
Okay.
It's
No,
not
that's a choice. I don't know if that aligns with one of the ones I have listed, but that
I'm
is
gonna
definitely...
be honest, it's not my responsibility to put other people's lives in my hands.
Do you
If
feel
that's
that
what's
way
gonna
after
happen?
the fact as well? So like, let's say the trolley goes forward, kills the 5 people. Do you now feel responsible for the 5 people or no?
No, not at all.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not my.
I mean, that's fair.
It's not my choice.
That's not your personal
It's
sense
not
of
my
morality.
choice. No, it's not even. It has nothing to do with morality. It's not my choice to sit there and choose whether or not 5 people live and 1 dies versus 1 lives and 5 dies. That's not my choice. It's
Even
the
if
same.
you know
it's
you
the same
have the
thing with the
choice?
death penalty. It's not my choice to sit there and delegate whether or not someone dies for their crimes that they may have not commit. That's not my choice.
Oh, that's interesting.
If someone wants to take it upon themselves to make it their problem, then that's their problem. That's not on me. I am not going to be the person who sits there and says, oh, well, this person murdered someone, whether or not it was justified or not. So I guess I got to kill him. No. That's not the moral law. If someone else wants to do it, then someone else can do it. I have no reason in my life to dictate whether or not someone dies or not. And that even has to do with like my own personal beliefs with political parts of life. I don't wish anyone dead. Period. If that's what the majority believes in, then that's what the majority believes in. I'm not going to sit there and change it. I'm not going to sit there and say, to be very political, I'm not going to sit there and say like, oh, I would have stood in front of the bullet when Charlie Kirk got assassinated. I'm not. I don't care. If someone else chose that path, that's their path to deal with. That's not my path. Like that's the thing. Everyone wants to have a moral obligation to, oh, well, I would do this if it was me. Why? Why are you going to put yourself in the situation? Unless you wholeheartedly believe that someone was a war hero and that they deserved more than what they got, that's on you, That has nothing to do with me. Like there is no moral obligation I have to any other person besides myself and the people I actually care about. If the president got assassinated and I had a choice to put myself in front of the bullet, the president gets assassinated. Period.
I think
that has nothing to do with me.
Hypothetical, though, is more the brain teaser, I believe, is more so like if it was your mom. Like it can't always just be somebody you're indifferent or you don't care about. Like if this was like your mother, or if this was me, or if this was your girlfriend as the one person on the track, or I guess if you had like, okay, so for instance, the whole thing about the trolley problem is you can have multiple situations.
Yeah.
In this situation, if you had the trolley and there was your mom or your girl, we'll go your mom. If your mom was on one track and I was on another track, do you still make the same choice to not pull the trigger at all? Or do you now, at least internally, have more of an inclination to make a choice?
I think everyone has a inclination to make a certain choice because that's a bias. You have a bias. I'm not choosing a lever. Period. I'm not choosing a lever.
So you would just let the trolley go through whatever way it was originally, however it is handled universally. You just choose not to interact with it.
Yeah.
That's fine. And like I said, that's not a bad take. That's just your personal view on how things work.
I'm not saying you're setting me up to be, a bad person or whatever.
This is a perspective.
I'm just saying in general, I don't think it's my choice on, oh, this person deserves to die versus this person. It's the same thing with if it's my mom or if it's a newborn child. If I'm going to be honest, I don't give a fuck about a newborn child because I don't know him. Period. Like I don't. It's the same thing with if my girlfriend had a child and there was complications within the birth and the child's going to, either make it out or my girlfriend's going to die. I don't give a fuck about a child. Period. I don't know the child. I know the person who's giving birth to the child. Mm-hmm. And that might make me sound like a fucking terrible human being. I don't know the child. It makes you
sound like a terrible human being.
I don't know who that person is.
I think I have no emotional
attachment,
is to kind of think about these different hypotheticals and talk about the fact that everybody has their own perspective on these psychological situations. It's all about how the mind works. I don't think you're a bad person for taking into account that you have a personal connection with a person rather than a person you've never met. That is how your brain works. It's how you view the situation. It's how you come up with your decisions.
I mean, if there's any choice, if it's your mom versus a random person, I'm going to assume you're choosing your mom because you don't know the random person. Same thing with if it's your brother, same thing as if it's your, your sister or your dad. You're probably going to choose the people that you actually care about. I mean, let's be honest, like it has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with their development. Everybody is biased on the terms of like the people they know. That's just what it is,
I am
like
just very curious about another hypothetical. Let's say you don't know the person at all. They're attached to the second railroad. The
okay.
first railroad, the railroad that the trolley is going to hit if nothing happens, you are currently tied down to, but have within reach the lever. Do you still let the trolley hit you, or are you making the conscious choice to divert because you don't really know the other person, but you do have a personal connection to yourself? I'm curious if it goes inwardly as it does outwardly to other people you know.
I think
Or do you just, do you not pull?
I mean, I think it really depends on your mental state.
Mm.
If I'm going to be honest, if you have nothing to live for and you have like say like chronic depression, you have this and that going on, maybe you do pull the trigger, to save someone else. If you have that kind of stuff, then yeah, I can see that. If it's me personally right now, yeah, I have a lot to live for, but I also don't have the right to choose on whether or not that other person dies because I don't know where they're at in life.
So you would
I can sit
personally
here and
not pull it.
say, like, if I'm talking about personally right now, I can say me and my girlfriend are on good terms.
Mhm.
Me and my family, no matter what our differences are, we're on good terms. Me and you, I mean, you're my best friend for life. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're on good terms. I'm not gonna sit here and choose to switch the switch to have someone else die because I want to live. I'm just not. I'm just not gonna do it.
Wait, so then are you saying that if
Whatever
you
it,
were on bad terms or you had like unfinished business, like in your opinion of your life, would that sway your decision to live? Like if you wanted to make it to a point where you felt more content with yourself, that would potentially sway your decision?
it would probably depend on if I realized I was on bad terms.
Mm.
Because some people are on like really shitty terms with people
Yeah.
and they don't see it. Like some people just don't see the fact that like they're the problem in life. But if I could see it and I could understand, like, hey, I made some really shitty consequences in my life, and those consequences reflect in action. Yeah, I'd probably spare somebody else, and have to deal with those actions,
Mm.
and like deal with those consequences. Like, yeah, I probably would go through that. You wouldn't even have to go through the train situation. You can even go with like, say you're going to a gas station and I go to get a Gatorade or some shit out of the gas station. You're pumping gas and I come back and someone has you at gunpoint and it's like, oh, I'm either going to shoot you or I'm going to shoot Joey. What do you say to it? It depends on your mental state. If your mental state is at a point where you're like, oh, well, I can accept death because I've come to terms with things, or you're like, oh, I have unfinished business. I don't want to die right now. Who you going to choose? The person who has everything settled, everything's okay, like they have no other qualms with life, like they're accepting it as it is? Or are you going to choose the person who is stressing out about everything, in their life and having an existential crisis? I would just, I would choose the person who has accepted like where they're at, and that might not be a good answer. I mean, there's multiple answers to the
There's
theory,
multiple. I
so
think
it's,
in my
know,
situation, the way my brain kind of views these different hypotheticals is no matter what the situation is, like is at least if I'm like involved, like you said, the gas station, or if I'm on the trolley cart thing, and I'm having to choose between myself and another human being, to me, I always, and I don't know what causes it. Maybe it's my upbringing, maybe it's how I was raised, maybe it's my personal experiences, but I don't think there is a situation. I mean, unless it's like Hitler, I don't
yeah.
think there is a situation where if I had to choose between somebody else's life and my life, I would ever choose to save mine. I don't think in my brain, I think that if I was in the trolley situation and the trolley was going to hit me, or if it was going to hit somebody else and I could pull the lever to save my life, I think I would just not touch the lever. But it wouldn't even be like a second thought. It would just be like, if there's another person in this situation, whether they're a personal contact of mine, whether I know them or don't know them at all, if I'm involved, then, and I don't know what causes that. Again, it's kind of like, it's just like how everybody has their own different takes on these things. For me, I just don't think that I would ever want to put my life. I could make the choice, but I would never make my life more important than one other's.
Do you
Again,
think
unless
that's a
this was
hero
like,
complex, or because I mean, again,
I actually don't. I don't. I think.
I think you have a
think the
hero
truth
complex
is,
like over anything else,
I
and that's
actually
just
disagree with you.
in your daily life, the way you live and the things you do. I think you do have a
Personally, if you
strong
want
hero
how
complex.
how I think my brain views it, I think I just don't care for myself as much as I care for other people. I don't think it's I
So a
want to be
hero complex.
No, more like a negative like more of a not healthy look on myself. It's not that I want to be the hero for someone else. It's that I don't think I genuinely care for myself at all if it came to making a choice for somebody else. I could not care about these people, but because I think so little of myself, it's just an easier decision. It's not that I want to save everybody, it's just that I don't care if I'm saved.
Do you think that's a part of the things you've gone through as a young adult that does that? Or do you think that has to do with religion? Do you think that has to do with your parents? Do you think that has to do with your friends?
Probably just, yeah, like things I've gone through growing up as a young adult, I guess. I think it's just, the life I'm living right now, I'm stable and it's fine, but right now it's looking slow. I don't really have a partner. I have a job that I can keep myself at least moving forward, but nothing to look forward to, which is,
But
it sounds sad, but it's not,
I mean,
because there's nothing to look forward to.
in the least disrespectful way possible, you choose that life.
No, I'm not denying that.
So,
But it goes back to, it's the same with you. It's how you view things as well. It's you choose to view things that way. You could choose to, I don't know, want to make a choice in the trolley problem, but you choose to have the outlook of, I don't want to have that choice. I don't deserve to have that choice, so I'm not going to make the choice.
well, yeah, I don't think anybody has.
And again, but you think that's it's your opinion. That's how I view my opinion.
So you think people have the right to choose whether someone lives or dies?
I think
'Cause
it's more
that's my
complicated,
choice,
but I
so.
think the death penalty, since you brought that up, I think the death penalty is
I
different
didn't
than the
bring
trolley
up the
problem.
death penalty,
You did.
but yeah,
You
for
said
sure.
you don't believe it's the same thing as why you don't believe in the death penalty, because you don't have the right to make the moral choice of ending someone's life. At
So
least you
do
said
you
you as
believe in
in
the death penalty
I
or what?
don't. But again, what I'm saying is I don't think the death penalty is the same as the trolley problem. I think that the death penalty is making a conscious choice of, based on someone's choices in life, you are now making a choice for them of whether they get to live or die. I think the trolley problem is you're looking at a situation where you can save a life. It's not the same as just choosing for someone to die. It's a half and half. It's a split of, I'm about to make a choice where someone lives and someone dies. It's not a happy choice. It's not something that anyone should ever have to be in. But if I have the choice to save 5 people over one person, I think my moral outlook on life would be to save the 5 people because I can. It's again, but that's
So
why I
it's
view
a
it
hero
differently than
complex. I mean, that's
again,
you
but that's
have
also,
the-
like I said, different. That's different than if I was on the tracks. If I was on the tracks, just run me over, kill me, get it over with. Who cares?
so it's the hero complex.
But if it's somebody,
You rather yourself dying than over someone else. That's a hero complex.
I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think the hero complex is that simple.
So what do you think the hero complex is?
I think there's
Without
different
looking it
parts
up,
of,
like,
I'm
what do
not
you
looking
think
it up.
it
I think
is?
there's different parts of it that have to do with, like, you feel like you want to be the savior. You want to help someone. You want
That's
to
not
be
a
the
hero.
person.
That's not a hero. That's not the definition whatsoever. A
But
hero does
again,
not sit
if
there.
someone doesn't give a shit
Superman
about
does
themselves,
not be Superman to get the kudos of being a hero and saving people.
but Superman doesn't let himself die if there
He
is
can't die. Period.
Well, why do you
He
bring him
can't
up?
die.
Bring up a better example then.
Okay, Batman.
Batman chooses
To save people.
to save people. I'm not saying I would
Whether
choose
or
to
not
save
he
people.
dies or not.
I'm only talking in the hypothetical of if I have to save someone. If I'm living my
Okay,
normal
then
life,
save
I'm
someone.
probably
So what, like, if you have the
all of these
opportunity to
trolley
save someone.
problems right now. All of these trolley problems right now have been, in my opinion, under the hypothetical that you are there and you have to make a choice, or
See, that's why I think the trolley problem is bullshit. Like,
but what I'm
people,
saying is
people
if we're
try
going in the
to.
hypothetical of I don't even enter the trolley yards, like I'm not gonna go in there. Like if I saw if I saw a robbery in a gas station where someone was at knife point, I'm not going in there to help them. But if someone's holding a gun to me and you and they're like, I'm gonna kill one of you, make a decision, then I will be like, all right, put a bullet in me.
But
But
why?
I'm not gonna be the Spider-Man who like goes in and is like, oh, everyone who needs help deserves the help. Like, no, I have work in the morning. If I'm not in the moment being forced to help someone, then I'm probably not gonna help them because I'm probably just gonna move along. I don't think that's
I mean,
a hero complex. I think the hero complex is if you see a weaker man in trouble, you go to help them no matter if it's a good decision for you or not. I'm only saying I would do it if I was forced.
I just think that the
I don't know what you
trolley
would call that.
problem, the trolley
The trolley
God,
problem.
I cannot talk. The trolley problem in general is just such a toxic way to like think about like
It's true. It's
whether or not you're gonna do some shit or not. Because in general, no one's gonna be in that fucking situation. Period. No one's gonna be in that situation.
true. Yeah.
Like,
putting
let's
a
be
very
honest.
Comic book,
It is a very much
chaining
like,
up your
you
mother."
want to make some money? Fucking let
Yeah.
them die. You know, like that
Yeah.
to me, that has no substantial basis on anything. I think the trolley problem makes no fucking sense, and it makes only people who are narcissistic feel better about the fact that whether or not they're going to let someone die for their own life or they're going to die for someone else's life. That's all it is. The trolley problem makes no fucking sense for anybody. And let's go on to a real world subject. If you're at gunpoint and it's either you or your homie, what the fuck is going to happen? Most likely, it's going to be who has the more flashier jewelry. That's the real world situation. Period. And are you okay with the homie who has more flashy jewelry dying and you don't? That's what it is. There is no trolley problem. We don't live in the fucking 1800s.
You can
That's
still
not how that
choose
works.
to step in front of them.
Are you going to?
If it's a
If
homie,
you don't know,
yes.
if you don't know that someone is going to shoot your homie in the chest, you're just gonna
If
you're just
I'm
gonna
with
jump in
anyone
front
that
of
I know
the homie.
personally, I'm probably going to try and at least put distance between them and the gun. If
But
it's
that's
you,
not
if
the
it's my
same
mother,
thing as
if
stepping
it's-
in front of the gun. That's not the same thing.
I don't know where we're sitting at in this hypothetical. Yes, if we're at a gas station and they're holding a gun up to you, I'm probably going to step in front whether they shoot me or not. I don't want anyone that I personally love to be hurt, and I'm going to be the wall like I was in soccer. I'm going to be I'm going to be the guy to stand up and just be the defense whether or not a bullet goes in my head. But again, in the exact same situation with someone that I don't know anything about,
Yeah.
probably not. I'm probably just going to sit there and be like, well, sorry, lady, you shouldn't have had a pearl necklace.
See, and that's why the trolley problem doesn't work. It only works when it's someone you know on the other track.
I don't think so. I think that's the answer to the trolley problem. I think the point of the trolley problem is to understand where your mental presentation of the hypothetical goes. In your opinion, it does only matter to those you are close to, but other people, depending on how they were raised or how they grew up or what they believe in, they might believe that no matter who's on that trolley, they will make a conscious moral choice of what they think is the best decision. But it's because of what they believe.
The only point of the trolley problem that I disagree with what you're saying is it has to do with your mental state. If you're good with yourself, you're not going to throw yourself in front of someone you don't know.
I think that depends on who you are as a person.
If you feel bad about yourself, you're more than likely to throw yourself in front of a person you don't know.
Some people are more calculated. Some people, though they can be emotional, some people view everything as almost like a math problem. Some people just see it as kind of like, what was it called? Utilitarianism. It's just whatever is the most amount of things that are positive that's the correct choice. It depends on how you view the situation. I don't want to keep us going forever. Let me really quick just like speed through some of these other moral theories. So maybe one of these sticks out to us for what we're talking about, but we can just kind of wrap it up with this topic. But let me just really quick speed run through some of these other ones. There's deontology. Some things are wrong no matter what. Deontology focuses on duties, principles, and rules. Instead of asking what outcome is best, it asks what is the right thing to do. Examples of things that are just inherently wrong: murder, theft, lying. There are just universal things that are bad things. That's like what that version of moral theory is. There's virtue ethics. Focus on who you are, not what you do. Virtue ethics is less concerned with rules and consequences. It asks, what kind of person should I strive to become? The goal is developing virtues like courage, honesty, wisdom, compassion, self-control. It's all about a virtue of yourself kind of situation. There's moral relativism. Moral mortality depends on perspective. Relativists argue that moral standards are not universal. Different cultures have different values, different people have different beliefs, therefore, morality may not be objective. Example, one society views something as acceptable, another views it as immoral. Who gets to decide which one is correct? A relativist might say neither is objectively correct. There's moral absolutism. Some truths never change. Absolutists believe certain moral principles are always true. They do not depend on culture, era, opinion, circumstances. Examples might include innocent people should not be murdered. Slavery is wrong. Torture is wrong. I'm almost done. There's like two more. There's social contract theory. Morality is the price of living together. This theory argues that morality developed because cooperation benefits everyone. We agree to rules because life would be worse without them. The idea is I won't steal from you if you won't steal from me. Laws, rights, and social norms emerge from this agreement. And then there's care ethics. Relationships matter. Care ethics argues that morality isn't just logic and rules. Human relationships matter. Empathy matters. Compassion matters. A care ethicist asks who needs help rather than which rule applies. And then this is the last one. Ethical egoism. Your first responsibility is yourself. This theory says people should primarily pursue their own interests, not necessarily because they're selfish, but because a flourishing individual often creates a flourishing society. Example, you have enough money to retire comfortably or donate everything and struggle financially. Must you sacrifice your own well-being? An egoist would likely say no. So these are just like a list. This isn't every example, but this is a long list of like different moral theories and why I say it's all dependent on who you are, what culture you're raised from, how you were raised, who your parents are, what your current belief system is, if you believe in a deity or not. I think that one of the reasons the trolley problem isn't bullshit is because the answer is always going to be dependent on the person making that choice or not making that choice. And I think that is just kind of the point of the conversation.
I mean, I guess. I mean, what you're saying is not wrong. You know, I'm not going to say like, oh, well, you're wrong for thinking that way. Majority of what you kind of brought up has to do with who you are due to geography and what you believe in. Period. Mm-hmm. You take what you believe in away. What is there? What is your right and wrong outside of being a Christian? Or
but
being
that's the question.
A Hindu,
some people can
you
just
know,
believe in nature. Some people don't believe in anything.
You can believe in right and wrong outside of.
But what constitutes that? What constitutes right and wrong if you don't believe in anything?
I don't think you need any religion to believe in that, like, say, murders.
Yes, but that would be like the example
that
of
you need.
Deontology. There are just certain things that are inherently wrong. Murder is wrong. It's not that there's any belief behind it. That's just one moral outlook on life, is that there are things that are right and there are things that are wrong. That would be like an example of deontology.
Well, and yeah, and that's fair. How many people in the world are saying that they subscribe to deontology?
I don't know that answer.
See, I mean, like that's the problem. A lot of people, this is not a saying you're wrong about anything you brought up. Like, I believe you brought up a lot of good points. I'm just saying in general, who's subscribing to all these other ways that are not religion, but is of morality? Not a lot of people are doing that. A lot of it has to subscribe to someone's belief in, oh, well, I'm a Christian, so I believe that this is this and this. And let's be honest, majority of Christians only believe in doing the right thing because they get to go to heaven. They don't believe in it because it's the right thing to do. If that was you know, the whole moral of the concept, then we wouldn't have the shit that we're going through right now in real world life in 2026. Period. We wouldn't be going through the shit we're going through right now. A lot of people who subscribe to a religion as a terms of like, well, this is, I do what I do because I believe in this. Belief has nothing to do with being a good person. You can be a shitty ass person and believe in, oh, well, everyone goes to heaven if they believe. That means nothing. that means absolutely nothing, you know? So, again, what you've said is not like bad. I personally think the second to last thing that you said kind of, you know, is something that I would most likely subscribe to, you know, when it comes to
The one about relationships.
I think like everything's
Pure
relational,
ethics.
you
Pure
know.
ethics argues that morality isn't just logic and rules. Human relationships matter. Empathy matters. Compassion matters.
Yeah,
They
I
ask
think
who
that
needs help, not which rule applies.
yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with like ruling over like whoever. I think it has to do with like understanding where people are coming from and what their needs are. I don't think it has anything to do with any other thing, you know, in life. I think it's all about trying to understand where people are at physically, relationally, spiritually, trying to understand like where they're coming from and seeing like how you can better them while also improving on yourself
Mm.
in the ways that you can, you know, like I don't think it has anything else to do with understanding that people are just another version of who you are. You know, like me and you, we're the same person. Period. We are the same person who just have different beliefs. We are both human beings. We are both people who understand an innate version of what life is about. We might not agree to get to that point in life, but we both understand that there's more to life than like what we were just kind of spoon fed throughout our entire life. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You're just another version of me, but we're in different spots and we were put in different places to get where we're at. Period. I think that's what
fair.
life is. It's the same thing with someone who cuts you off on the freeway. You can be mad as much as you want, but then if you sit back and you think about it, you can be like, oh, I've 100% done that to somebody before.
Yeah.
Like
course.
I've
Of
100% cut someone off, even if I didn't mean it. That person might not have meant it, but you'll never know because you're not in their mind. But we're all a part of the same consciousness. We all have a duty to try and understand where people are coming from, even if it's not something that we would do right now. That's something we could very well do in the distant future or the distant past, or we can do it tomorrow. You know, like we just don't know. And I think we have a moral obligation to understand relationally where people are at and understand that we might not all be terrible people. We're all just people who make mistakes. And that's about it, you know. So
I completely agree with that sentiment, and I think that's kind of why I wanted to have such a philosophical kind of outlook debate conversation with you, is because there's so many different ways to look at all these different questions. We talked about identity, we talked about free will, we talked about morality, um, and I think it's always going to depend on so many factors that, like you said, we're all coming from different upbringings, and there's going to be people who agree with some of the things we said, and there's going to be people who absolutely
Don't agree with anything.
hate
Yeah.
on what we've
Yeah.
talked about today. But I think, much like why we do Woodsman in the first place, I think the ability to have the conversation is what makes it so special and makes it so interesting to talk about. Is just the ability to conversate about it, which
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
not
with
a
all
lot
that
of people
said,
can do. Not a
yeah,
lot of
exactly.
people
Some
can do
people
it.
don't
So
ever get to have these conversations and challenge their minds and think about some of the different versions of outlooks on this.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, with all that said, I think that's about where I was gonna wrap up. I hope you liked it. I know we went on. It was a long episode. I apologize for making you sit so long, my friend. But I hope you at least had a
It's
little bit of
okay.
fun just brainstorming with me and tackling a bunch of different random fun philosophical debates.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those that everybody kind of has to have, especially with the way the world is going right now. We just we don't know how things are going to end up within the near future, and I think it's important to have something to where we can all agree on the fact that human life matters. We
Mhm.
matter as people, and it doesn't matter what you believe in, what your religion is, what your ethnicity is. Like, none of that matters. We're all just human beings. We're all just trying to get through it together, day by day. That's all we can do, you know? So, um, it's definitely something that's powerful that not a lot of people want to talk about because it's a divisive subject, especially
yeah.
right now, you know? And um, it's just something that kind of has to be said. But again, I also didn't know anything about this podcast, so you can thank Joey.
Well, I hope I came with enough
If you don't
information to
fuck what we're-
brainstorm about. I
Yeah.
feel like it went pretty long. I was debating on, after a while, breaking it into a two-parter because I was like, fuck, we got a lot of things I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about the ship of Theseus. I wanted to talk about the trolley problem. I wanted to talk about morality and the different theories. But we kind of hit it all. I think we haven't done a 2-hour episode in a minute, like a legitimate long one. So I think it was fun. Sorry to make you, like I said, sorry to make you sit out in the garage for so long. I
It's
hope it's been
okay,
cooling
big
down a
dog.
little bit.
It hasn't, but it's okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. No,
Well,
it's all good.
that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, everybody. I'm happy that you let me take the reins for this episode, and hope you enjoyed having a little bit of a break. And
Oh, I did.
even though I kind of just
I did.
interviewed you for the whole thing, so
Yeah, it's like, oh, this man's a piece of fucking shit. You see what his answers were on this shit?
No. I
Yeah.
hope that everybody takes from this episode that everybody has their own views on these different situations and hypotheticals and paradoxes. I would
Yeah.
love to know
Yeah.
what all of you think. So please let us know in the comments or on Instagram.
Comment, subscribe, send us emails on how much you hated everything we talked about, I guess,
Yeah.
you know.
Let us
Yeah.
know.
It's a fun time. We live for it. We just live for any comments or emails. So yeah.
Well, with that, I think we're good to get out of here. My co-host needs to get some EPs. I probably do too. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, if you enjoyed everything you saw here today, just like Brent was mentioning, make sure to check out the Patreon. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or inquiries about the show, you can email us at thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com
Or Cabin 13
or Cabin13
Productions@gmail.com. Yeah.
The Patreon is up and running again. We have a brand new episode over there for you guys to go enjoy, and there will be another episode up next week. You can find that at patreon.com/thewoodsmanpodcast.
And Yeah, if you like this, you can like, subscribe, leave us a review on Spotify. That'd be great. Or Apple Music or Apple
Rate
Podcasts.
us 5 stars.
That'd be great. Leave an an interview. Leave a comment on if you liked what we were talking about or if you hate us. I mean, any publicity is good publicity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we
so
make such controversial episodes.
we love it. We love it. Well, we're your hosts, Brent Murphy.
And Joey Rucker.
We'll see you in the next episode. In the arms of an angel. With thee. In the arms of an angel.
The Woodsman Podcast is actively reading and responding to anything and everything on Instagram and our email.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the show, or would like to possibly be on the show, you can email us at thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com.
Make sure to keep up with all things Woodsman related on Instagram and X at WoodsmanPod.
Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe to the Woodsman Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, with video exclusively on YouTube and Patreon.
Make sure to follow our personal accounts at Strange Kids and Piemaster J on all platforms. The Woodsman Podcast is co-produced by Brent Murphy and Joey Rucker. Written by Brent Murphy, video editing by Joey Rucker, and blood, sweat, and tears by all of us.
Any additional content by the Woodsman Podcast may not be used without our permission. Copyright Cabin 13 Productions.